Hey everyone, this is Kim from Laugh and Grow Press, and I have a short tutorial video for you today on the Whisper album cover template. I've gotten a few inquiries on the images that we use in the cover template because the goal in what I depict here in the image is a photo that wraps all the way around. I wanted one seamless look in that image. The photos that we used here and in all of the Whisper album samples are from Kelly Rydin of Kelly Rydin and Tracy Raver baby posing. So with Kelly's permission, we started with this photo. That's the beautiful image that I used for the cover. And as you can see, it certainly doesn't have enough room to wrap around the whole thing because our end output looked like this. So I think it's pretty safe to say in typical that in shooting newborns, you don't really have a lot of negative space to the left or the right. I'm sure there's a ton of exceptions. However, typically, and I think just by purely the setups alone, the bean bags or the blankets and the floors and the backdrops, there isn't a whole lot of extra space to have gotten this in camera. So I would not let that limit you as to what you want your book to look like. This is meant to be very clean and simple. So I wanted one photo to wrap all the way around. So what we did was a little cloning to extend it a little bit and a little fading, and so that the one color seams all the way around. Okay, and that is the question that I've gotten from a few people, so I wanted to make a video on it and show you how it's done. My way is absolutely certainly not the only or the right way. It's what I do and what I want to share with you. So if you have a better way of doing it that's working for you, that's fantastic. Or one you think is better, I wouldn't even mind hearing about that. So I have asked an incredibly talented photographer to use her photo. This beautiful little one is from Denise over at Newborn Daydreams Photography. She's incredible. If you have never heard of her or don't know her, go to her Facebook page and scroll through. She's amazing. So again, that's Denise from Newborn Daydreams Photography. So we're going to use this photo and show how to alter it to get it into our template. We are going to use the 8x8 template. This one happens to be from Pro DPI, but they all work the same. The dimensions are just slightly different. So first things first, your images are usually pretty large, and I don't need it that large for an 8x8 book, so I'm going to change it. Make sure that it is not your only copy, that you are working on a duplicate. So I'm actually going to change it to 8 because if you remember right, and I'm changing down here the size, that our image doesn't even go all the way up to 8 inches. So I'm pretty safe in doing it for 8 inches, okay? We've got a few inches to spare over. So that's the first thing you do. The second one is the canvas size. So image canvas size. My brain works better in inches, so I'm going to change that, but you can work in wherever you're more comfortable. So I want to obviously extend the left side of the canvas right here. That's where I want to clone. As it is right now, it's going to extend. If I want to extend it 10 inches, it's going to divide that and do it evenly around all 4 edges. Okay, so it will extend in the way the arrows are pointing. So if I click over here, you see it's going to extend that way. If I click over here, it's going to extend to the right, which is what I don't want for this particular image. So this is the one you click on. You want it to extend left. At this point, it's kind of a guessing game because until I lay it in the layout, I don't know if I want to crop in on it or leave it small. So just really give yourself enough room. 10 inches will probably do it. So 22, I'm probably just going to go to 25 to be safe. And there it is. Now mine came in white, which is what I want. And it did that because my background color over here is white. If yours came in a different color, double check that your background color here isn't, obviously that's not white. It can be whatever you want. White just seems to work better in my head here. So that corresponds to your background color. Okay, so I don't want to have to do all of that again if I goof up the whole changing of the image size and extending the canvas. So we're going to work on a duplicate layer. So under layer, duplicate. And that way I'm going to work on this layer, and if I goof up at all and don't like what I did, trash that layer and just make another duplicate. So you don't always have to go back from scratch. So once we're here, we're fine. Just make sure you're working on a duplicate layer. Okay, so we are going to clone a little, maybe use the warp tool and the brush tool, and that's it. So this is the rubber stamp. This is going to clone. I'm going to leave my opacity at 100 for now, but that's where you find it. Your brush, should have 0 hardness. When you go up here, the edges get harder. When you come down here, the edges are real soft and feathered out, which is what we want for this right here, okay? That brush is a little large to me. Your bracket keys right to the right of the P are gonna go left bracket down, right bracket up. That's the shortcut for that. Okay, so hit your Option or Alt key and click what you want to clone, and then you go over to where you want to clone. And you can either do a straight motion and up and down. With a little texture on the blanket like I have here, I really don't want it to look cloned, obviously. So I kind of just move it around a little bit. I'm constantly clicking on the Option key and it reselects. Obviously I don't want any hard lines like that. Just keep clicking. You can always hit undo, so don't go too fast. And you're going to take a little bit more time than I do. And then if you can start seeing some banding, or you can completely tell that it's cloned, that's where you want to go in and work a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to stop because I could do this forever. Just make sure that you, like down here, I feel like I can kind of tell I'm cloning. When you can see the pattern repeat a little bit, that's how you can tell. So sometimes I do a little circular motion, and then other times I'm going straight up and down. Like I really like the texture that's in right here. I'm going to hit clone and then bring it out a little bit because I think I lost some in what I was doing. Okay, I won't waste too much of your time. So that is the cloning part. You just keep moving it around. Make sure you have no hard edges. This part here is bugging me. Okay. From there, you can also use just a regular brush and go over it real soft. So from here, we are going to stay on this layer, but I'm going to get the marquee tool, and I'm going to grab a little portion of it. It's mostly solid. We do have some texture in there. Edit, transform, warp. So that's going to bring up a whole bunch of points you can move around. We're just going to stretch them to the left. So stretch it over. For some reason, the Shift key does not do what it normally does, which is hold it nice and straight. So you're on your own with that. I bring those over, and then you can grab the handles. That'll bring the middle parts over. And you can see here, you can go upward, it'll stretch it up a little bit higher, and come back down. These are just free form, they move anywhere. So you can play around if you want it to pull straight over, which I thought I did, but it doesn't look so bad if you pull it upward. Okay. And then you can either double click, hit return, or hit this little check mark, the OK button, and it'll chug and then it'll be done. Okay, I'm going to hit the Command D, that's going to deselect it. So far, that looks pretty good. You can kind of tell that I did a little bit of pulling, but that really doesn't bother me in this image. It gives it a little texture. When it's so solid, sometimes that actually bugs me. So I'm going to go on a new layer, and I'm going to grab my eyedropper tool, and I'm going to grab one of these grays. There's slight difference in all the grays here. And then I'm just going to grab my brush tool and at 100%, maybe a little smaller brush, I'm going to color in over on this side. You can do this a couple of different ways too, but I'm just going to manually color it in because we're not talking about that much area here. And as I get to the edge, I might use a little bit of a lower opacity. Until that's kind of gone. There we go. And now I make my brush a little bit bigger. And so this can be done, actually, the way that it is right now. I might do one other step to see if I like it any better. But that right there, even if I lower this a little bit, and maybe go over some of that areas that I thought looked a little stretched, And that could call it a day, that right there, okay? One more step though I'm gonna do in case yours didn't work out as easily. We can kind of blend it over on top. So I gave myself another layer. I'm gonna go over this circle tool down here. It's a half white circle tool. And go to gradient. And that's gonna give us a gradient on top of everything. As it is right now, I think it's going from bottom to top. Or top to bottom. It's linear, but it's not going the way I want. So I'm going to just move this to the one way you can remember it is that it's horizontal, the line is. We're going to move it to 0. And you can see the, here, let me redo that. Keep your eye on the baby. This is the way it was when we started. Okay? And now if you move that line till it's horizontal to a 0%, keep your eye on the baby, it lightens up. So now our gradient is literally going from left to right, which is what I want. I want it at 100% down here, and I want it to fade over into the photo. Okay? Hit OK. And then I'm going to grab my eraser tool. I certainly don't want to alter the photo, so make sure you're on the white box here. Click the actual gradient. And then we're going to erase. I'm going to erase at 100% for right now. I don't want to change her picture at all. It's beautiful the way she had it edited. It's obviously subtle because there wasn't that much color on it. If you don't see any color coming off, double check your boxes over here. Your foreground and your background kind of depict if you're erasing or not erasing. If you don't see anything happening, your black box is probably on top. Make sure it's your white one. So I'm just going to erase off of the baby. And then I might bring my opacity down a little bit when I'm erasing over here so it blends nicely. I want all the texture she originally had in her photo. There. So we'll just turn it on and off to see. It's really subtle, but it blends a little bit better. And then I would call it done right there. So that was the extra step. Yours might have looked good the step beforehand. At this point, save it, layered, so that in case you don't like what you did or something shows up, you can always go back in. These are files you may not need in the long run, but for now, until your book comes and you're happy with it, I would save it layered so you can go back in. Okay, so I already saved it. Let's say that I did. Now I'm going to flatten it. Sorry, my palette fell off the thing here. Flatten image. And now I'm going to select it all. So Command A is select all. Command C, or Option if you're on a PC, sorry, is copy. And then I'm going to go over to our template. And this isn't what it's going to look like when you open it up, and I've left all the Pro DPI specs on it, or the Millers, or anything, whichever book that you're using. And I turn that off because it's confusing, but you do need to know some of the information. I turn that off. There is a layer that says cover photo here, so make sure you're on that layer and hit Command or Option V as in Valerie, and that's going to paste it in. And then you can move it around, use your Move tool. I'm just going to bring it over. And that, you could leave that alone right as it is. However, I think that her original photo was zoomed out a little bit, so I'm going to honor that look because it was beautiful. And bring it down. And then at this point, you just want to make sure that it's centered in where you want the baby to be. So if you turn some things off, that might help you to see. This line right here, just an FYI, is not the spine. That's a crease. This is the spine here. In between these are the spine. That's a crease in the cover. This isn't specifically Pro DPI, but it's this little crease. So you can see it, or it's still on the front. So don't think that your image drops off after that. Okay. So I kind of just want it centered. And you can use maybe even this line as your lead to center it. We'll move that over just a little. Turn your guides on and off on the off chance that you had like some room down here. You wouldn't be able to see it if this was on. So make sure you turn them off just to double check, okay? And make sure it's where you want it. And that is your finished cover template. That is what you would send. I would save this as it is layered, like I said, until you're done with the project. And you flatten it, and this is the JPEG that you upload to your printing company as a flattened JPEG when you're finished doing all the other things that you do to it. Changing the words, the text is in here, and this is where you would change your to your name. Where am I? There we go. That's where you would change to your client's name. Okay, that's it. If I glossed over anything, went too fast, or you have additional questions, always feel free to email me, kim@laughandgrow.com, and I'm always happy to answer anything. Or repeat it, or if you have an additional question, it might warrant a video. So if I learn better by seeing anyway, so I'm always happy to make them if anyone has any additional questions. Okay, thanks everyone. Have a good night.